Always look at videos like this, and things are always available, like the Discovery Institute or Reasons to Believe. There's lots of things to look at. I do appreciate so much of what, and you and I had this conversation, and that I appreciate so much the pastor allowing this, because he was up here and he said, "Oh, we need somebody to do this or whatever." I'm like, I can, I went and contacted him, and he was all for this. And I think the churches need to pay more attention to this, because especially when it's so unjust, I feel like it's unjust to give man glory when God has done so much. When you see all the things that he's did, all the, I ended it with the compression information, and I wanted to go have us all try to write out the language back and forth. Remember I told you that? But I couldn't. It was just, I went way over my time. So I wanted us to try to write out something that would make sense forward and backwards, and then also, but it would be different. It's not like race car, something, and we can't do it. We don't have the technology. So I just think that, I think we should, as a church, we should pay more attention to this, because people are losing their faith. And as parents, we should find a way. There's ways you could find. You could look this stuff up, and if you went to Discovery Institute, they have these summer classes that you can go to. I mean, people are their faith is getting wrecked when they go to like college and even in high school. Their faith is getting destroyed, and it doesn't need to. God ran up the score everywhere, and when their answer is the multiverse, you gotta laugh. It's like, what? Really? That's your thing? It took me weeks to actually believe that's what their answer was. You know what I mean? Yeah. Got another one? I think you're the only one with. Okay. They have everybody has their interpretation of the fossil record. It's become so. They'll put this over here, and like you see the progression of from monkeys of monkeys to man and whatnot, and of course they teach that we and monkeys come from the same ancestor, so it came like this, the same answer this way, and then these guys became the monkeys and we became the men and all that other stuff. But what they're saying, as I kind of alluded to it earlier, is that we have different methods of what we believe. So like when God made the original, fox, you have the Arctic fox, you have the desert fox, and they all came from the same thing, and they all had the ability to adapt to that, from one thing that God had created. Well, the same thing works for the primates, okay? There's variations within primates, just like there's variations within bears. The bear, like the polar bear, lost genetic information, so it no longer has the ability to produce a dark color. It just has a white color. Most every time, it's a loss of genetic information. You could look that up. But so if we were going to test out our method versus their method, our method is God created, and He gave us, He created the original with the right genetic material to adapt in here and here and there. Okay. Well, they're saying that these things would die, and they're trying to come over here if they can't adapt, and so they have to gain genetic information. What happens more often? What is more likely to happen? To gain genetic information? No. Even the things that they use to say that, oh, we gained genetic information, it doesn't. You think about like the COVID or something like that, how it has mutations and things like that. But it's not even a cell. It's not really even a cell. It just goes into a cell that has information in it already, and then it hijacks. When they're trying to make a fly, they zap these fruit flies for generations, forever, and they finally got one that had 4 wings and it can't fly, and they call that progress. It just zapped something so bad so that it grew a pair of wings again, and they're talking like that's success. Or when they had a mouse and they zap that thing, and now there's a picture in one of the videos of a mouse with 6 legs. That thing's not happy, you know? So their method of doing evolution doesn't work. It's more highly, and we saw, and even with the Darwin finches, we saw that in the very beginning, right? How the finch, it grew the beak, it was able to adapt, and then it went back to normal again. So we have a better method, and our things work better. Does that help? Okay.
That was good. Thank you. Just one last question. If you had to give, let's say, a 30 seconds to 1 minute argument for the existence of God, how would you go about that?
Okay, give me a second here. There's lots of them. What would I pick? Okay, well, I would say that, well, there's the origin of information within the DNA. No one has ever been able to answer that. No one can answer where the code came from, and they never. And I even talked to well, I say, I've got 30 seconds here. You know, you would talk about, you know, the fine tuning of the universe. I would say you don't have an answer for, if I was speaking to or you have no answer for that, for the fine tuning of the universe. You have no answer for the information in the DNA, and you cannot make one thing that in science cannot make one piece that's useful for life. So I guess I would do that, something like that.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Has kind of come together at the point of the Big Bang, where I believe that before the time, space, and matter, there was just God. And through God, we got all three at the same time, which is the only way that we can exist and experience life as it is. Some questions I do have. So for the multiverse theory, is it possible that there were multiple universes already created beforehand that we simply have not experienced or have any knowledge of? So all of the possibilities that you were talking about, 10 to the 120th, that is an insane number. But from our standpoint, we have only known the existing universe for however many years it has been. Is it possible that all of those cycles have indeed gone through and leading us to the result that we have today?
Okay, so think about what the purpose of the multiverse is. It is to explain all those things that we talked about without intelligence and without any knowledge, that they don't want to acknowledge any God, right? So that's the purpose of why they made the multiverse in the first place. So the chances are, and you know, we're just bringing it back further, right? How about the universes before? What's making those universes? What's more likely? Is that there's a God that made all of this, that God made, you know, the all the way down to the cells, to the, you know, and like you said, 1 to the 120th, and all those things, and then the list that I handed out, you know, all of that taking place. I would not believe that it would ever happen that, you know, we could have the same things that we have in this universe. I can't imagine that another one would just happen by chance without intelligence, right? And something this big would be just from God. That's what I think. So I think that's why the evidence just is so overwhelming for God, you know, and all of that, versus chance multiverse, a chance universe here, a chance universe there, you know, and I'm thankful that the evolutionists have had to lean on the multiverse, because I think all they need to do is think about it, you know, and you know, how are these things are actually going to come in by chance from a multiverse? Does that help at all?
A bit, because like, I have been trying to wrestle with this question for quite a while. For me personally, the idea that we all came together to be as molecules, as proteins, as atoms, coming together to form the collective that we are today, that has been the foundation of my beliefs in science, like starting from when I was like young to growing up now. So like accepting that radical change, not radical, sorry, this wonderful
Yeah.
change, honestly.
Sure.
Accepting that there is a all-powerful creator is really, it's heartwarming, but it's also just a little difficult to get over that little bump right now.
Well, I mean, yeah, I could understand that, and just like I said, let's think this through. What kind of universe would have to come out without intelligence that would have all the characteristics of the numbers that we talked about? If I could remember all of them that had, these are the ones that needed to be together. So we had, there was a 10 to the 60th, one of them. Another one is 10 to the 120th. Another one was 10 to the 10 to the 123. That, I mean, that's more than all the atoms in the universe. So for something like that to take, so for a multiverse, unplanned, no knowledge, to come out and do this, I think it's just it'd be a miracle beyond miracles. I don't think it's possible, and I mean, it's beyond it.
Talking to people like they don't believe, like for me, how I explain that to ordinary people, because these people believe in the chance and the time. For me, what I'm always insist is on God's design and purpose. There's nothing that God created that is no purpose. So I always stick to that. What's the purpose? If we look like, is there a possibility of there's another universe? And what's the purpose for that? So I think it's harder to explain those things when God designed things, and every design has a purpose to it. I cannot explain it in a very specific way, but the way I look at it, that when God created things, he created it with a purpose.
And also, if and we should keep talking about this. And I don't want us to part tonight until we come to an understanding. To somehow, if there's something I could do to help you, and if not, then and if what I say tonight isn't enough, I'll try to find more of an answer. But I do think that all those parameters that we looked at, all of those impossibilities, you have to make a choice. Whereas, did intelligence put those together, or did chance? And at the same time, we're here in this. We're looking at the DNA as well, and all the things that has to be factored in too. All that's impossible also. I mean, we just have levels of impossibility after impossibility after impossibility for evolution. And so if you got another one, or you got something else you'd like to say, please say it.
Yeah, so I totally agree completely 100% with what Pastor said about purpose, because as someone that's been trying to figure that out, that has been the central thing that's like bringing me into Christianity, back to Christianity, further deeper into Christianity. And as far as I'm aware, our purpose as human beings is to learn of God, to glorify him, and to spread the good word. So, in another way, the way that I thought about it before, is that our creation, all of this, and all of earth is just for Jesus Christ to come down and proclaim the glory of God and to share how wonderful he is. That's the way I think of it now. Thank you.
Good way.
Is right now so I kind of believed that we did create like some small amount of life from non-life. I kind of did believe that. But if indeed there is no such thing, is it possible that within 100 years or 200, 300, or forevermore, is it possible in a century or a century, that we can actually change our way of thinking and perhaps approach this problem from a new perspective that actually does give us a solution, such as life?
It's so funny you would say that. The guy, Dr. Tour, he was saying that, I'm not saying that, that we can't find it, but he says, he says to the people that are doing the origin life research, he says, you are going to die before you find an answer to this. And your children are going to die before you find an answer to this. Now, he's saying it might happen just like you said, in hundreds of years from now. But he says that was not going to do anything to my faith, because then he'll say, oh, that's how you did it, God. That's how you did it. You know? But as of right now, there's no way. There's nothing. I mean, if they can't make one thing of a backbone, not one amino acid, not one sugar, not anything for origin of life, it just means that they're far away. And I mean, not only that, they're going to have to, what put this DNA together? Oh, did something, say, hey, let's go get a ribosome and translate this. Hopefully it has a code in there that'll mean something, So, I mean, it's going, you're going further and further away from possibilities of making life. If you need to, I mean, these cells also, they even talk to each other. They found that they actually talk, and they're in unison. I mean, it just goes beyond, I just think God had run up the score so much, but so that would be my answer. And you might want to watch some of his, because he said that possibility, but the people like the Discovery Institute, they think, okay, that's his intelligence. That shows intelligence. It has to come from a mind, which I agree with them. But maybe you would agree with Tour that maybe someday they're going to be able to, I mean, maybe possibly find something in like 400 or 500 years, and there'll be an answer, and then they'll say that's how God did it. But I think all of this is just proof of God. What's your name? I forgot.
Oh, Albert.
Albert. So nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
I used to have a Sunday school when I taught many years ago. His name was Albert too, and we did for his 7th grade project. It was about evolution, creation, evolution. This is many years ago, so it's funny that you guys would have the same name. Is that you? Thank you.
Works, like even down to how our cells heal or the brain functions. It makes me feel amazed, and I was like, wondering. So, sorry. Back to my question. Like, does the Bible speak to how that sense of privilege or gratitude should shape how we treat the world around us?
Oh, there's the greatest commandments: love the Lord your God with all your heart and all your mind and all your strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. Right? That kind of what you're looking for? I mean, it's just the way God's character, and knowing God, you love more because He loves you, and you're being conformed to His will, to His character and who He is. So you love more, and then you love others more in that same way. Does that help? I might have misunderstood.
Or like also I'd say like the world around us. Like let's say like nature. Like when we see a forest, we're not here to like burn it down or anything. So like.
Okay. All right. Well,
I don't know if that makes sense. But.
Okay. I know that in James, he that knows to do good but does not do it, to him it is sin. There's also a scripture that talks about treating your animal well or something like that. I can't place it. It's I think and you could look at the example that Jesus was. He was always gentle with people, always kind. As far as treating the earth, I think some things would go without saying, or that would just be part of God's imprint on you. And that's, because we'll come by and you're in the wilderness and you see a piece of trash, you pick it up, not because it's commanded, but I think because that's the kind of imprint that God puts on your heart. Does that help?
Yeah. Thank you so much for your talk today.
Sorry.
I had one question about intelligent design. I noticed that a lot of the arguments that you gave today and even the videos talked a lot about intelligent design, but I went to an intelligent design conference like 3 years in a row, I think in high school, and I noticed that proponents of ID, they don't necessarily believe that the biblical God is the intelligent designer. It's just more so the fact they were really stressing like this is not a religious theory. It's more so the fact that we look at the complexities of creation and nature, and we're like, someone probably designed that because it was intelligently designed. But there was no concession that it was a biblical God. If I were to, let's say, argue with someone who does believe in ID but not necessarily God, do you have any sort of, I guess, theological arguments that can also be seen from an archaeological point of view, so I can still argue from an ID perspective, but logically lead to it's God and not any other designer or religion or,
Sure.
yeah.
Sure. Okay, so the first thing about the people in ID, that what they're, and that's why I like them in that they include all the scholars. Now, like the main person who's in, one of the president, I think he's the president of it, Stephen Meyer, he's a strong born again Christian. And a lot of them are strong born again Christians, but they leave room for people who are Jewish, Muslim and Catholic and all the others, so that you're including all of them. That's why they choose the intelligent design, so that includes everybody. But they're very, like, for example, if you see an interview between Tour and Stephen Meyer, James Tour always says to all of his guests, so he'll say, Steve, do you believe in the physical resurrection of Jesus Christ? He says that to all his guests, and they say, yes, we do, blah, 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 and they'll go on and on and on. So they are strong in being Christian. Like he recently wrote a book called Return to the God Hypothesis. So, I mean, they are very, into that. I think some of the things is to find out what the other person believes, and go from that direction. I mean, you could go look at the manuscript evidence, archaeological evidence, prophetical evidence, and statistical probability, from that. And there's some decent books that you can get, theological books that would show that. In archaeology, I know that they found something about Caiaphas, and there's a bunch of things that they found archaeologically, and that would be kind of another thing. I'd have to come back to you on that, honestly, because I've been so focused on this so much when I was first invited to doing this. That's what so I'll try to get that to you if you like. So
Yeah, I'd love that, actually.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I
cool.
think I had one more quick one. One thing I still struggle with is the idea of theistic evolution and trying to figure out if that's even a possibility or not. Primarily, like, the argument that God was the one who set evolution in motion, like the laws of nature are just secondary, but God was obviously the primary. What are your thoughts on that, if any? Is that something that you've looked into in your inquiry into evolution?
Well, the issue about a lot of that is, so many people come at it from a different perspective. And I told you about the young Earth and the old Earth, and when things were made and all of that. So it seems that everything can be, like, in my opinion, it can all be made within the framework of a good God. I don't think that he just started that up as well. I believe in the ability of the original to adapt. I strongly believe in that, and I think that's an answer against whatever the evolution would say about their evolutionary way of adapting and changing into something else. I believe that God made the originals to adapt, and that's why I think, coming from that point of view, you don't really see the theistic evolution being supported as much. Do you follow what I'm saying?
Yes.
Kinda
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. I mean, yeah. So there's a possibility, different ways of thinking about it, and what you think it would have been this way. But personally, I believe in the more biblical-centered way of a good God that created a good creation, and that we fell, and then death came into the world. And I think there's plenty of room for that within the evidence that you see. Everybody's going to use, especially in the evolutionary community, they are going to try to twist everything, and they're going to try to hold things away from you and not really share all the information. So I mean, I would believe, and like I said in the beginning, if you had kept your faith, in spite of all the other things that have come, I said you made the right decision, and you'll find that you made the right decision. You're holding on to your faith.
There's one thing that still the evolutionist people cannot still answer about: where does morality comes from? Even until this point of time, those are good arguments as well, because morality aligns with the character of God, and they cannot explain that until this point of time.
The vast amount of things that humans have that, like, say, chimps, morality, and the list, there's a long list of those things. Does that help? Or
Yes, very much. Thank you so much for your time and
Thank
for
you.
talking to us here.
Thank you.